Hi, everybody. Welcome to Discover College Soccer. I'm lucky enough today to be joined by Coach Andy Lyon from the Motlow Community College. Coach, welcome.
Thank you.
So Motlow State is in Tennessee. A lot of folks may not be familiar, so we'll talk about the school here in a little bit. But let's talk about the recruiting side of things, just because I think a lot of people, they kind of forget about community colleges in a way, or two-year schools in general. And maybe don't understand how that process is maybe different than a regular four-year institution. I think obviously you got to reload a lot more every year than a typical coach. But I guess when do you let's talk about, I guess, timelines for you. When are you generally talking to kids and seeing kids and getting commits? Because I'm assuming it's a little bit later than a lot of traditional four-year schools.
Yeah, I would say it's later. And in all honesty, in junior college world, recruitment never stops. I mean, we just finished our 22 class, and immediately next days, I mean, we're going on 2023s anyway, but it does seem to be quite a bit later finalizing your classes. And like you said, the turnaround is, you're looking at 50% of your team just about every year. So it is non-stop with recruitment, which is exciting but challenging as well. But yeah, I would say that the majority of our commits we're getting senior year. You get a few in their junior year, but everybody's still looking at that point, I think. So we usually kind of solidify it in their senior year. And we still have some, kind of last minute that either the circumstances change or, like you said, not everybody's that familiar with the junior college route. So some people, it takes a while to kind of understand the benefits, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Now, in terms of, where you go to recruit, in terms of, tournaments you're looking at, leagues you're watching, and then secondarily geography, most of your colleges tend to be fairly localized. How does all that play into how you build your roster each season?
So I think for us, we look inside and then expand. But I mean, in all honesty, we get sent players just about every single day. Especially recently, once we made the national tournament last year, that kind of opened up the floodgates in a way of players that are a lot more interested in going to a high quality JUCO. But I mean, I've also been around quite a while. I'm quite old now, so I've made a few coaching contacts, and I always tap them up once a year. Just say, hey, you got any hidden gems that we need to come and look at? And there's honestly a lot of 4 years like JUCO players. So a lot of them are, if their roster's full, we get people that contact us and say, hey, I think this would be a great fit. We would like to look at them in a couple of years once they've come through your program. So, but this year is probably our most diverse team in terms of where the players are from. So we've got a girl from Scotland, one from England, one from Germany, player from Arizona, Texas, Florida. So this year is kind of the most we've expanded in that, and that's just been either through coaches or just through recruiting websites. In all honesty, it's we set up. The thing with COVID was that it was Zoom call after Zoom call after Zoom call. So I think players maybe got a little bit more comfortable with Zoom calls. We didn't. I still struggle with that because I'm quite awkward. So, but they seem to be a little bit more open to the junior college route, and especially ones that kind of are a really good level.
So you mentioned, and I know that kind of back on my Division II coaching days did this once or twice as well, but we talk about like coaches saying, hey, can you kind of park this kid? Can you take out this kid and for a year or two? And how many of those kind of come through in any given year, do you think?
It's, I mean, it is quite rare, but
Okay.
it's also up to the player themselves. I mean, because some of them are going to be, they want to join obviously that college immediately, and so you kind of understand it from their point of view where they're going. Well, okay, I'll go this way for 2 years and then come to you. But it does happen more and more, and we do get, as coaches move around, some of our good friends, will reach out and go, got a player for you, not quite in our budget for this year, or maybe needs a little bit of help academically to get their grades up. And then, so it can happen. And I think it is beneficial, very beneficial for all parties involved. It's just, it has to work. They have to feel at home on the campus, and, that it's a step up, and they're not just, and there has to be that kind of agreement in place that this is going to happen. You just have to be a little bit patient with it.
Yeah. Well, in terms of that fit, you talk about, you got a couple kids from out of state. And I'm guessing most of the people who are going to end up watching this probably are from outside of Tennessee. But so what are the I guess what are the differences in terms of in-state versus out-of-state when it comes to a junior college? Is it simply tuition like it is at a 4-year, or how does that have any bearing at all in terms of what happens at the university or at the college, excuse me?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of our players were from out of state, had different offers, but obviously finances play a part in a lot of people's decision, as well as regular playing time. So I think our players, they knew that, I mean, we don't sign players just to sign players. All our players compete. They all get, time if they're going about things the right way. So I think it was their desire just to get in and keep playing right away, versus maybe sitting and biding their time for a year, 2 years, stuff. And then some of them, we talked to them for months, and I always tell them, if you can get on campus, get the feel of it, talk to the players. And so they talked to some of our players, and then they flew in for a visit and just, fell in love with the campus. It's a beautiful campus. You could drive past it in either direction and not know it's there. It's set off the road. It's surrounded by trees. It's it is really picturesque. So they all kind of fell in love with that. And then the fact that it's a smaller school, that they could get kind of more individual attention from the teachers. So some of them, that's kind of what they're used to and what they like, so that they feel that they set themselves up for success as well.
So on that kind of financial aid topic, what is the scholarship situation from an athletic point? Does junior college have academic scholarships as well? What's kind of the typical financial aid package for an average student coming in to play soccer?
So for our college, they're able to stack scholarships, academic and athletic. If your grades are if your grades are up, and if you do well on your ACT, you're looking at really good financial benefits. I mean, we've had players that have come out debt free. The vast majority of them come out debt free, especially the Tennessee players, because they get Tennessee Promise, so it's free education for them, which has been massive for us in terms of recruitment of Tennessee players. Because I mean, I'm old. I keep telling them, look, I've just finished paying off my student loans. Stay out of debt as long as you can. But I mean, even the ones coming in from out of state, when we tell them how much it's going to cost, and then we give them the kind of breakdown, you can see their eyes light up, just to be like, wow, this really, really afford, definitely do this. So it can be a lot a lot cheaper. You know, that first year you're still going to take exactly the same classes pretty much wherever you go, so it's the benefit of that. And then yeah, financially, that like a lot of our players, they're on, because of the combination of their grades and what we give them, and our budget isn't massive, but we, you know, we stretch it as much as we can for them, and so they're on, you know, really good financial deals where it's not going to break them, basically.
Okay. Well, the last thing I want to talk about when it comes to recruiting, what, you know, are you heading to like tournaments and looking at players and that sort of thing? And what kind of, do you look at high school games at all? Kind of where do you look to find some players besides your coaching contacts?
So this, I mean, everywhere we can. We went to Texas this year. I was luckily enough I was coaching a team out there as well, but I combined it with recruiting. We go to high school games. We were lucky in the fact that there was a few really big tournaments here in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, which is less than an hour up the road from us. So that was a really convenient place to go recruiting. I mean, we go to the big tournaments in North Carolina. We try and get all around, and then obviously most are live streaming games now, which is brilliant. Not quite the same as watching it in person, but you know, it's perfectly good as well. And a lot of the players that we'll keep in touch with will say, hey, if you're playing, send us a link, or is there any way to send highlights, that kind of stuff. But you know, we get around to everywhere we can, basically. As far as the budget will stretch, pretty much. And then there's obviously international contacts. We get sent a lot of international players just to look at. And then they're always really good about sending, if they're having like a day, whether it's a tryout day or just a tournament day, they'll send us the link to it. So it's a lot more accessible than it was maybe a few years ago. Okay. And so yeah, I mean, that's recruitment in a nutshell, really. You try and get around as much as you can in any way that you can.
It made me think of another thing, just because, you know, we're in the middle of summer, and I actually tomorrow take my oldest daughter to a soccer camp. Do you guys do any camps? Does your coaching staff work camps? How do camps fit into the whole picture for you guys?
Yeah, so we do various levels of it. We aren't doing a camp here this summer because they're building our field at the moment, so they're renovating like $1 million field. So we have to give it 6 months and stay off it and stuff. But we do local camps here for the middle schools and high schools. We've done different camps in the past, so it kind of depends on our schedule as well. And then obviously we'll try and do an ID camp or two during the year, so that we kind of invite everybody and make it affordable so everybody can make it as well. But you know, it's kind of identifying players from there as well that we've maybe recruited and invite them in, and then that way we can show them around as well, and then see what they like and get our players feel for them as well.
Oh, that's great. Well, let's talk about the school itself. You know, you mentioned the picturesque tree-lined campus, but what are some of those awesome things about the school that, you know, I might not find just by clicking around the website?
So when the thing we have to deal with is how to describe where the school is, and it's terrible when we say, you know, the easiest way to describe it is, and most people have heard of it, they're like, okay, do you know Jack Daniels?
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, like 10 minutes away.
Lynchburg, Tennessee.
yeah. So the location wise explaining it is always interesting to people, because you can always see the parents go, really? Yeah, don't panic, it's the factory. But yeah, like I said, it is very picturesque. We have a fantastic nursing department. That their statistics are unreal about job placement it's something like 99% or something crazy. Our criminal justice program is really, really good as well. That we have, you know, great faculty. It is a very small campus. You can see from one side to the other. You're not going to get lost. There's deer everywhere when you first drive in, especially early in the morning. I had to narrowly avoid 2 babies this morning, baby deer, not actually babies. But so there's wildlife everywhere. It is very picturesque. Our library is amazing. I was kind of at my university, my library was very stuffy, very like dusty, and it just felt like you couldn't make any noise ever. And ours is it's wide open. It's really well lit. They're just putting in a virtual reality lab downstairs for a lot of the departments to work with. Softball team works with them as well on their swing. And so it's always entertaining just walking past and you just see people randomly swinging in there. But so there's a lot of different things to it. And they always have events on campus as well with the foundation. Jack Daniels is obviously involved, but there's a few other places around here that are very much involved in the campus. So it is like a little community. And then when you go into town, some of my players have just flown in this week, and obviously they're getting supplies and that kind of stuff for their house. And it really shocked them that people already kind of know who they are and what they're doing, and they're talking about the program and just going, oh, they had a really good year last year. Are you going to be good? All right, well, I hope so. But no, it is kind of a definite community feel to the place.
That's great. Well, in terms of academics, you mentioned some really good programs there, but how do your student athletes really balance their studies and their sports commitments, in the environment there? And what kind of support systems does the school offer to help, that transition from high school into college?
Yeah, I mean, good question. We always make it really clear that it's, you're a student athlete. And so everything that you do is student first. So because I'm a Nottingham Forest fan, I always remember Brian Clough, who was a manager of Forest at the time when I first started watching them. His son played for him, and he made him go to college. He was a brilliant player, but he always said, you've got to have something to fall back on. My dad did exactly the same to me. He always told me I needed a trade. I'm not sure he kind of, pictured this as a trade, but no, it is. We're lucky in the fact that we have a lot of players that take their studies very, very seriously. And we kind of explain what your grades can open up for you, and, the opportunities that you can have going forward. And then we have study hall. We have regular progress updates for the players just to make sure, they're not missing classes. Their grades are going, how they're doing throughout the year, just to make sure that nobody falls through the cracks. I do the schedule in the way that, we try and miss very, very few classes or days of classes. So we don't have classes here on a Friday. Which makes it easier to schedule games Fridays and Saturdays, because that way we're not missing anything. And then if we're out on the road, then we'll have study hall at the hotel, just to make sure, you've got to keep that schedule and make sure that they realize that wherever they are, their studies have to come first. Otherwise, it leads to less opportunities on the field, and then less opportunities in life if you're not kind of keeping up with that.
Sure.
But yeah, we have a really solid group that really hold each other accountable as well.
So you mentioned, not having class on Fridays. Can you just walk me through what a typical week would look like during the season in terms of class, practice, games? Just a kind of a quick overview for somebody who's not familiar with what maybe that college in-season schedule is going to look like.
Yeah, sure. So with the environment that we find ourselves in, some of our players are online, most of them are on campus, but we have some that once everything went online, they thrived. They preferred the online, and so that's quite rare. But I know we have one player that doesn't get up until 12 o'clock, rolls out of bed, goes to practice, does all her work that night, and then that kind of stuff. You go, okay, that sounds terrible, but you're doing really, really well. You've got all A's. I can't argue with that. But for those that are on campus, obviously we have some that need the classroom environment, which I would be the same way. So they may have, like an 8 o'clock class, finish that, they'll go to the library, and then potentially a 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock class, eat, practice, work, or go, you're doing your homework in the afternoon, sleep, repeat. So their classes, most of them, they'll have like Monday and Wednesdays, 2 classes, and then potentially 1 to 2 Tuesday, Thursday. All of ours are set up in 12 to 15 credits, just to make sure eligibility-wise they're set. And then for the majority of times, if we've got away trips, we'll leave the day before a game. So say if we leave Thursday night, we'll get to the hotel that Thursday night, we'll wake up early, we'll have study all that morning, play that afternoon. If we've just got one game, then we'll come right back after the game. But if not, then we'll try and make it to where we have a day in between, because once the season starts, it's kind of fast and furious. So especially if you're traveling long distances, you're trying to get potentially 2 games in that weekend, but we'll try and separate it to Friday, and then we're off Saturday, Sunday game, come back that Sunday, and then you're immediately straight into class. But some of them, what they've done, and the college is great about this, is providing hotspots. So they'll take a hotspot with them on the bus, and we'll be doing their homework on the bus, because inevitably there's going to be times where your schedule doesn't allow you to sit down and get everything done as you would like to do it. So they've been brilliant about, we'll talk to them beforehand, go to the library, get a hotspot, check it out for the weekend, take it with you, get what you can done on the bus. We kind of monitor that a little bit as well, just to make sure, hey, you're getting this done. And then they're all brilliant about working with each other as well. And then we have resources here where they can get a little bit of extra help if they need it. So they can set up appointments, whether it's via Zoom or in person. They've got that little bit of extra support as well.
That's great. Well, let's talk more, kind of about the team and the soccer side of things a bit. So, being at junior college, like you said, you're always recruiting, but what is your target roster size in any given year that you want to carry?
We've always been between, say, 21 to 24, I would say, is a good number for us, just because, we want to make sure that everybody contributes, everybody can see that they have a pathway into the first 11. But it's also great for tactically for working on stuff. If we can get into a full-on 11v11 practice, break down what we need to break down. But we never really set a definitive number, but we've always ended up between kind of 21 to 24. This year we're at 23. I think last year we were at 22. So it's always in and around there. Because there's always going to be players that we need to rest. It's a full-on season, so we try and maintain, keep them injury free, make sure they're working with our trainers if anything crops up. Injury prevention wise, we want to be make sure we're on top of that. So there is that rotation through. So we found 23 is going to be a good number for us this year, I think. Okay. Usually with three keepers, 20 outfield players. Yeah.
Okay. Well, and then how big is your staff? What role do each of them play? Whether that's your on the field staff versus what athletic department staff, kind of everything.
So there's 3 coaches. There's me, my assistant, and then we have a goalkeeper coach as well. Goalkeeper / assistant coach. We're all I mean, it's our life basically. We're, you know, even away from work, we're talking about everything. It's bouncing ideas off each other, sending each other stuff to do the next day or, you know, in the future. Obviously athletic trainer as well. And then there's coaches here that I bounce ideas off, you know, the basketball team, softball and baseball. So it's not a massive athletic department, but, you know, it's big enough. We've got a support system that everybody knows everybody's players. So, and then some of our coaches are teachers as well. So always helpful when I can say, hey, so-and-so doing all right. And so they're very much on top of it as well, just to make sure the whole athletic department is you know, doing what it needs to do, succeeding. We have just employed a sports information director as well, because we do basically, I say we do our own social media. I try and keep out of it because I'm old, but I'll explain kind of the ideas that we want to get across, and we actually employ one of our former players to do all the graphic design stuff, because part of what we kind of talked about when we started this is we wanted to support our players and this community as much as possible. So if we've got former players that are really talented at stuff, I want to give them as much opportunity as I can. So we sat down with our graphic designer yesterday, one of our former players, and just said, right, what's the direction for this season? What can you do? We want to help you. We want to, you know, keep expanding your experience. So there's a lot of former players that are, you know, kind of really invested in the program as well, which is brilliant. A lot of people around here that give to the program. A lot of families that, you know, that recognize that soccer's not always been number one around here, but they really want to keep building it up. So yeah, it's been, especially after these past few years, it's been really, really good, the amount of community support that we get.
That's great. Well, speaking of former players, the question on I'm sure on a lot of people's minds when it comes to junior colleges, you know, how many of your players typically go on and continue, you know, at a 4-year plan?
Yeah, it depends each year, and we always start that with them really early on, just to start identifying or at least narrowing down their choices. It's everybody that has wanted to continue at a 4-year has done so, and so it kind of varies every year. Sometimes we have 4 to 5 that go on, sometimes we have 2, and because they're going into then very specific academic stuff, and they're going, you know what, I've loved my time, but I don't think with this program I'm going to have time to do both at the college that I'm looking at. So we never really have an agenda in terms of where we send players. We listen to them and go, right, this is your journey. We're going to help you out as much as you want us to help you out. I mean, we would love everybody to carry on playing, but you know, some people are like, I've done it. This last group, especially, they just basically said, I can't see myself having the same kind of season we had last year, so I'm going to just finish out on top and then go into my studies. And you can't really argue with that. I'm still getting coaches now asking me about the players, and I'm just going, I'm sorry, they just decided to focus on their studies.
Sure.
Everybody that's wanted to play has had really, really good offers.
That's great.
A lot of them are looking at, you know, close to full rides.
Wow.
Their offers. So yeah, it's been fantastic in that respect.
No, that's amazing. Well, we've covered a lot of ground. I want to keep you, but you know, I always like to end with the last question of what else do we need to say? What didn't we talk about? What else do we need to cover that you want to tell us about your program, the school, anything in general? Now's the time.
Well, good question. I mean, it's, for me, I think there has been a stigma about junior college being just a kind of a lower level of soccer for a little bit, especially since I've been here. It's we always bring in some of our former players to watch us train every year, and they're always surprised at the level. Because I mean, honestly, when we were at the national tournament last year, there was a couple of players that I was coaching against where I just found myself clapping because they were brilliant. Some of the stuff that they were doing was unreal. I mean, one player almost scored an overhead kick in the last minute, and I was just stood there going, "That's incredible!" I mean, the level of junior college is phenomenal. I mean, so what we do in the spring is we use the spring season as a way to put our players in the shop window. We play D1, D2, D3, and we always compete. You know, we've beaten teams from every level, and some of the junior colleges that we play have consistently beaten teams from every level. So I think the biggest thing for me is if you're a player and looking, just watch some games, see the level, because it's a really, really high standard. You know, and the biggest thing for us, it's affordable. It's I said, you moving in with players that really, really want to be here. It's a fantastic environment. We're really excited about this year. We have a really, really good group, yeah, so it's going to be great. And I love just getting players from different places just to give the kids something different.
Yeah.
You know, they're always really intrigued about what goes on in different places, and you know, and it's fantastic to see them just, I mean, even asking the most irrelevant questions, like what's, you know, you just think, because it's such a different world for them. And one thing I didn't mention is in the spring, what we do is we take a trip to Belize.
Oh, wow.
So we go for 10 days. I was really lucky to, a few years ago when I was, before I started here, I wanted to write about different cultures and how they, you know, approach the game of soccer in general. So I went to Belize by myself, just started talking to a few different clubs, and got really lucky with a contact that I made, who's now a vice president of the Belize FA. So we play against their national team. We travel the country. We go into different schools. We take a load of school equipment and soccer balls and soccer equipment, and and that's a phenomenal experience. The best thing for me is, you know, just to watch our players kind of get that joy of when we go into schools and just having a kick around with the local kids, and just seeing the sheer enjoyment of the game back in everybody. Just having a kick around for the afternoon and forgetting about everything else. And yeah, it's an unbelievable experience.
Yeah, it's tremendous.
Yeah.
Well, Coach, thank you. I appreciate the time. Wish you the best of luck this season,
Thank you.
and hope you get back to that national tournament and hopefully bring home the cup, right?
Thank you. Yeah, that's the plan.
All right. Thanks. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.